Okay, so my second interaction with Celine from China is about her high school typical day. So she told me that she wakes up at 6:30 in the morning and gets ready, and her class begins around 8 a.m. and it lasts until 4 p.m., which is a lot longer than my school day in New York because my school day starts at 7:25 and ends at 2:16 p.m. She said that all the students either take their bike or they walk there. Unlike my school, I would drive, and everybody would either get driven or drive their own car by me. Um, Between classes, she has 10-minute break, and then she has 2-hour lunch break. So she would go home and then go back home, and then go back to school. But for my school, I only had 45 minutes, and I had 5 minutes between each class. I would always have to rush. So during my 45-minute break, I would just eat like either in the cafeteria or anywhere really close, and then go right back to school. After school, she said that it was a mandatory thing to sign up for a self-study session at night from 6 p.m. to 9:10ish, but you can stay all the way up to 11. And I think that's very different from my school because my school had after school, but it was from 2:16 when like class ends only up to 3:15, and it was kind of like every other day. So like one day would be about like the lower floor, then the other day would be the second floor, and that's it. She only went to high school for a week, so she told me how the things she worried about and the things that made her happy in middle school as she remembers. So she said that in middle school, she was always worried about finishing her homework in time and getting into the top high schools because she would have to take assessments and they would pretty much place it on how high her score is. But in my school, in my community, I went to high school, whichever one was like closest to my house. So I had three options, but I was lucky because most students would only have one. And they would have to go to that high school unless they move. And then if I was to move to another place and my high school is in my community, I would have to go to that specific high school that's in that area. Top three things that made her happy was receiving best grades in class, field trips, which occurred twice a year, and school sport events, which last only about 3 days, which I thought was really shocking because I honestly, I feel like those three things make me really happy too in school, but field trips, like in high school, I never had field trips. In middle school, I did, but they were very random. We never knew when we had them, even though it did like make us happy, but I think we had more than twice a year. And with sports, my sports in high school lasted months and they were a huge deal for me. So, like for her culture, I think education is definitely enforced, but for mine and back at home in New York, it was definitely sports and music. So I remember I would get out of school and I would be done doing sports from until like 8 p.m. or like singing, whatever, had like musical practice. I saw pictures of her and her friends and where they're doing regular school stuff, and her school, like the surrounding, the picture looks exactly like a typical school with a hallway and classrooms on the sides and then lockers all the way down, like right next to each other. So that was definitely very similar to me. It really also shocked me that in China, they seem to be more environmental friendly. So the students, like, the parents kind of make them walk and take bikes for that reason. So she told me that she remembers her parents always telling her, like, you can't get a car to go to school and, like, it's bad for the environment and you have to walk and stuff like that. And she knows, like, a lot of her friends' parents said the same thing. But for me, I learned how to drive when I was 15. I was begging for a car when I was, like, 11 to get, because I would see all the kids taking it and stuff. And even if you didn't have a car, if your parents couldn't drive you, you would take the school bus, but that was rare because usually everybody got driven by me. So yeah, so that was my interaction number 2.